again, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And today I am delighted to show you something I've been working on, which is actually a combination of some previous work that we've done on the channel. One of them is the cluster stitch, the 3D cluster stitch, and the Seaside Shawl by Purple Iguana. And what I did was sort of merge the two ideas together, and so now we have the 3D cluster stitch shawl. And also a big thank you to Lion Brand for sponsoring this video for today. Now we got ourselves some yarn that we're going to be using today. This is Woolly's DK Cake. And for the project right here, I used Mandala Wool Blend. It's very, very similar, and apparently this yarn is being discontinued, so I thought, let's use something very, very similar. You know, they're both a wool blend, they're both a weight of 3, they got lovely colorways, so there you go. All right, so some specifications, just in case you are able to find this yarn still. I used about 2 cakes of this yarn, and it is about 590 yards, 80% acrylic, 20% wool, weight of 3. I used a size I crochet hook, by the way, which is a 5.5 millimeter hook to make this piece. Now, I get a lot of questions. How much yarn should I get? I would always say, buy more than you think you're going to need. And then if you don't use it, and if you bought it from a store, hang on to your receipt and return what you don't use, or add it to your stash. Either way. So I believe I used about 2 of these to make this shawl, and I think it's a good size. Now keep in mind, this is heavily textured. Okay, a lot of front post double crochets are involved. It's a lot of texture in spite of it being lacy. So this is a nice thick piece. So it is going to be a bit of a yarn hog. It will eat up your yarn. So keep that in mind. All right, now Lion Brand did provide me with this Wool Ease DK Cake for today. Thank you very much. And so this is very similar. It has less yardage because this is 393 yards, whereas this is 590 yards. But they are both 80% acrylic, 20% wool, and same basic specifications, where it's a weight of 3. And let's see, hook size H, yep, and needle size either a size 5 or a size 5. So yeah, that is essentially the same on both of these, except you do get a bit less of the yardage here, but the material itself is essentially the same. And so this, by the way, the colorway is called Winter Solstice. So pretty. And for those of you that want to know, this one is the colorway of Aphrodite. Now, I did also get a couple of other colorways, although I think I'm going to use this one for today's tutorial because we're still in the winter time. Now, this one is called Forever Young. So pretty. And I've got one more right here, which is called Bedazzled. So gorgeous. Now, these are more springtime colors, so I'm going to save these for later. And today we are going to work with the Winter Solstice and a size I 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and we shall get started with our tutorial. Again, thank you so very much, Lion Brand, and to all of you for watching. Thank you. All right, on to the tutorial. All right, row 1. All right, by the way, also, I am going to put links in the description box to the 3D cluster stitch as well as to the Seaside Shawl as well. All right, so I'm going to start with a slip knot, of course, and a chaining up of 4. The first chain is going to act as sort of the holder of all the other stitches, and then a chaining up of 3 to act as our first double crochet. So chain up 4, and then into the first chain that we did, add another double crochet. So we've got 2 double crochets. Chain 1, 2 more double crochets into that same chain. If I can get there. So I've got 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 more double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets. And that first chain, yes, it does get stretched out quite a bit, but that's okay because you can cinch it closed again, no problem whatsoever. So the first row basically amounts to 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Easy peasy. Alrighty. All right, row 2. So we're going to start by chaining up 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn the work. All right, now we have 3 chain 1 spaces to work with. We're going to do a lot of increasing. Okay, so basically what that amounts to is into this first chain 1 space, and before and after, we're going to work on an increase. So first, ignoring this first double crochet, the second double crochet, do a front post double crochet around that double crochet, then into the chain 1 space, double crochet. All right, chain 1, 2 double crochets into that same chain 1 space, chain 1, double crochet again into the chain 1 space, and then front post double crochet around the next double crochet. So to recap, it looks a little bit crowded right now, I understand, but it'll make more sense as we go on. There are a lot of repetitions here involved. So it is a front post around that first, not the first, but the second. It's a front post around the second, then a double crochet into the space, then chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, double crochet into that same space, and then front post around the first double crochet. All right, so then continuing on, we are approaching that next chain 1 space. So what we're going to do is, again, do a front post double crochet. So we've got 2 front post double crochets right next to each other. That is normal. That is what we want. Also, I'm going to cinch that up a little. And then into that space, double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets, there we go, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post double crochet into that next one. All right. And then last but not least, going to do another front post double crochet, and into this chain space, double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post, double crochet, and then you could go into the top third chain, but quite simply, we could just go into this next space right here with a double crochet. All right, and again, going to cinch that up. Now, yes, like I said, I know perfectly well this looks a little bit crowded, but it will make more sense as we go along. Trust me. Trust me. All right, row 3. By the way, I know that I must sound really hoarse. I'm not feeling too well today, but I really wanted to do this tutorial regardless, so please bear with me. All right, so before we do our chainings, now keep in mind we have what I would like to call an increase cluster over here at the top and over here. Okay, now on the two sides, okay, on this edge and on this edge here, it is going to be a 2-row repeat. Now, the top, this top area, the increases, it's technically a 3-row repeat. So in order to say, oh, repeat rows, X through Z, it's not as easy as all that. But if you remember that this is a 2-row repeat and this is a 3-row repeat, that's how I, went about it as far as remembering where I am. And it really is not that hard. You just need to remember where you're at, which you can quite easily do by looking back at your previous rows. It's not that hard, trust me. Okay, so right now we're going to start by chaining up 3, turn the work. Okay, so now we have here 2 chain spaces right here. Well, we're going to create a cluster here and a cluster here. So again, we're going to be skipping the double crochet that we created in that first one. We're going to do a front post double crochet around this double crochet right before the chain 1 space. So that is a front post double crochet, and then into the chain space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then another front post double crochet. So we're just doing a cluster within that chain 1 space. And we're going to do the same thing with this next chain 1 space. So front post around this next double crochet, like so, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post around the next double crochet. Okay, so now we have reached the center increase. Okay, so here it's going to be very similar with just one variation, adding a chain space. So going to skip these 2 double crochets that are in the back, and we're going to skip right ahead to this double crochet and do a front post double crochet around this double crochet. So we get a front post, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post. Okay, so now we are going to actually want to separate this cluster from the next cluster. So chain 1, and then do the exact same thing with a front post into this next double crochet, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post around the next stitch. Okay, now again, a bit of a recap. Back here, we had our 2 chain 1 spaces, and we created a cluster and another cluster, but we didn't separate them out. Didn't need to. Up here, we had our 2 clusters forming out, but we're going to need a third one in the middle. That's why we added the chain 1 space. So it's going to branch out a bit and at the top. Okay, so scooting right along. We then have over here a chain 1 space and a chain 1 space. Well, going to do, again, skipping these 2 in the middle, going to that next one with a front post, double crochet, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post around the next stitch, and then front post around the next stitch, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post, and last but not least, double crochet into the space at the end. Okay. It's fanning out beautifully. Got some awesome texture already. All right, so that is the end of row 3. All right, so row 4. Going to continue right along. So we're going to chain up 3, turn the work. Now, keep in mind that the last row that we didn't increase. We just went 1 in each. Well, we're going to increase again. So it's, remember, on the even numbered rows, we do an increase. So that being said, into this chain 1 space, we need to increase again like we did down below. So going to do a front post, double crochet right here. And then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, double crochet, and front post. All right. Then into the next 2 chain 1 spaces here and here, just regular clusters. So the double crochet right before the chain 1 space, front post, double crochet, and into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then do a front post around the next double crochet. All right. Approaching the next chain 1 space, we do a front post, double crochet, and then into that chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then another front post. Now over here is why we added that chain 1 space in between the 2 clusters that we created. All right, around this next double crochet, do a front post, double crochet, and then into the chain one space, we're just doing a regular cluster. So double crochet, chain one, double crochet, and then front post, into the next double crochet, front post, and into the chain one space, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, and front post. All right, so bit of a recap. Okay, so we had, it was a branching out where we had two doubles, chain one, two doubles, chain one, two doubles, and that became two clusters, and then the two separated by chain one space became three clusters. So essentially that's 1, 2, and then 3. And that's why I say it's a 3-row repeat. And then the next row, this space right here, is going to have 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. So that's why I say it's a 3-row repeat. On the sides here, it goes from 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, and then the next one is going to be a cluster in here and then a cluster in here. So that's why I say it's a 2-row repeat on the sides and then a 3-row repeat along the center spine. I hope that makes sense. All right, so we did our 1, 2, and 3 clusters there. So now, going along to the next chain 1 space right here, I'm going to do a front post double crochet, and then into that chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post. Okay, and then we have our next chain 1 space over here. So we need to do a front post, followed by a double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, double crochet, and front post, double crochet, and then double crochet into the space at the end. All right, so that is the end of row 4. All right, row 5. All right, so again, because it's an odd numbered row, and our last row we did an increase, well, we need to do a cluster here and a cluster here. We need to sort of flesh that out. So start by chaining up 3, turn your work, and so yeah, we're going to have a cluster here and a cluster here. So to start with, into that double crochet right there next to the chain 1 space, front post, double crochet, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then another front post. All right, so we've got our first cluster. Then we need one right next to it. So front post into that next double crochet, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and front post around the next double. All right, let's pull out some extra yarn here. Okay, so now the chain 1 space for this cluster and for this cluster, it's going to be status quo. Okay, no changes. All right, so around that double crochet, do a front post, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post around the next. Same thing for the next. Front post, into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post. Okay, and of course I have a knot. Not quite, but all right. So now what we were talking about before was it goes in a 3-row repeat. So it's one cluster that's sort of an increased cluster, then 2 separated clusters by a chain 1 space, and then 3 clusters. I just did one of them, and we have another one over here, and then in the one in the middle needs to be an increased cluster. So to do that, going to again do a front post, starting off with the front post, and then into that chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, double crochet, and then a front post. So that is our increase cluster, because this one cluster is going to then create 2 separated by a chain 1, and then that one is going to become 3, and then it's going to go back to the 1. All right, so into the next cluster space, well, we're going to do a front post, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then another front post. Next cluster, do a front post, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, then another front post, and then we have our increase cluster at the end. So for our first chain 1 space right here, we're doing another front post, and then into the chain space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post, then another front post, into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post, and double crochet into the space at the end. Ta-da! All right, so that is the end of row 5. All right, row 6. Start by chaining up 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn the work. All right, so last row, we took our increase cluster and made it into 2 separate clusters. Well, we need to increase the cluster in this first space here. So again, skipping these first 2 into that one right next to the chain 1 space, front post, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post. See, that's the thing about the edge clusters. Here and here, it's every other row, you're doing the increase that we just did. So we have these two spaces now that on the next row, we're going to do those two clusters. Right now, it's the increase. Okay, so right now, we have our chain one space here and here and here. Those are going to be, again, status quo. And then up here, we did our increase the last row. So we're going to need a cluster here and a cluster here, but separated by a chain one space up top. All right, so we're just going to scoot our way quickly across doing our clusters within clusters. So again, front post, and then into the chain one space, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, front post. Next up, front post, into the chain one space, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, and then another front post. Next cluster, need another front post, into the chain one space, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, front post, and we've reached the top, the spine, if you will. So we need a front post, into the space, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, front post, chain one, front post, into the chain one space, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, front post, and then the next couple of clusters, we're just doing clusters within clusters, no big deal. So front post, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, front post, front post, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, front post, front post, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, front post. Okay, now again, if you're confused as to what you need to do, well, looking back at the beginning of the row, this was an increase. So this very last one, or you can look down below. See, this was an increase. This one was a non-increase. So here we need to do another increase. So you could always look back at where you were to see where you need to go. So front post, into the chain one space, double crochet, chain one, two doubles, so that we're increasing, chain one, double, then a front post, and then double crochet into the last space. Ta-da! All right, so that's the end of row 6. So you can see it's really starting to flesh out. And don't you just love this texture? I know I do. All right, let's keep going. All right, row 7. All right, so start off by chaining up 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. Now, the last row we didn't increase, so this row we're just going to flesh these 2 spaces out. So around this double crochet right here, right before the chain space, front post, double crochet, and then into the chain space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and front post, and then front post around the next double crochet, and then into the chain space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and front post. All right, and we're going to do the same thing with these clusters all the way up to the top, just status quo, no real change. And that's, well, that's the nice thing about this. It's that it's only at the sides and at the top that you have to worry. Well, I don't want to say worry, but, think about, all right, are we increasing or not increasing? But along the sides, there's no increasing. So for these clusters, we're just going to do the front post, and then into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, then another front post, and then to the next one, front post, and into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post, got another one, front post, into the chain space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post. All right, so we now have up here, we have our 2 clusters separated by chain 1 space. So again, it was 1, then 2. So now we need 3. We need cluster, cluster, cluster. So that being said, going to go around here to do our front post, and then into that chain space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post. So that's the first of the 3. Then front post, into the chain space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post. Once again, front post, into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and front post. There we go. And then going to mosey our way along this edge, front post, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post, front post, into the chain space with a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post. Sort of like the front posts, they sort of act like bookends, if you will. All right, next up, front post into the chain space with a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, front post. Okay, and last but not least, we have our 2 spaces that we need to make into clusters. So, front post into the space with a double, chain 1, double, front post, double, chain 1, double into that chain space, front post, and double crochet into that last space. Ta-da! All right, so that is row 7. Oh, this is so pretty. I love it. All right, row 8. Okay, so again, chain up 3, turn the work. Now again, we have a cluster here and a cluster here, which means this one needs to be an increase cluster because it's an even row. So I'm going to go and do a front post and then into the chain 1 space, double, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, double, and then a front post. All right, so from here all the way to the center, it's just, again, status quo, just doing your clusters by doing a front post and then into the chain 1 space, double, chain 1, double, and then another front post. Front post into the space, a double, chain 1, double, front post, front post, double, chain 1, double, front post. Front post, double, chain 1, double, front post. All right, now we're almost at the top where we have cluster, cluster, cluster. Well, since we've got 1, 2, and 3 evenly at the top, this middle one needs to be an increase. So I'm going to do this first one as normal. So that is front post, double, chain 1, double, front post. That's normal. All right, and then in the middle, this one here needs to be an increase. So front post, double, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, double, front post. So now we're going to have those 2 spaces once again. So from here, going down this way, it's just clusters as usual. So that's front post, double, chain 1, double, front post, into the next one, front post, double, chain 1, double, front post, 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 and then last but not least, we need another increase. So that's front post, double, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, double, front post, and then double crochet into the last space. And there you go. That is row 8. Alrighty. All right, folks. So there you have it. Basically what it amounts to is on either end, whether it's this edge or this edge, basically every other row, it does change. It's either an increase like we just did, or it is a fleshing out of the increase. So like for instance, right here, we had our increase. So you would do a cluster here and a cluster here. Then the following row, you would do an increase one. As far as the center spine goes, you have, see like right here, we have the increase where we have 2 and 2 and 2. And then we have a cluster here and a cluster here. Then we have 3 clusters. And then the center cluster becomes the increase cluster. So then for this row, we would have a cluster here and a cluster here at the edge to flesh that out. And then at the top, we would have, again, to flesh this one out, a cluster here and a cluster here, separated by a chain 1. Then the following row would be 3 clusters, just like we have right down in here. So basically, it is a 3-row repeat for the center spine and a 2-row repeat for the edges. Now, I'd like to think that, this has been pretty thorough. If you want me to do another repeat or 2 in an additional video, please let me know. If you think that this covers it, let me know. Either way, let me know. Because you know that I do like to be thorough with my tutorials, but not redundant. I like to cover my bases. I like to be clear, especially for something as pretty as this. I really like to be complete with my tutorials. So, that being said, I hope that you liked it. And if you did, please give a little thumbs up button down below, because I appreciate your appreciation oh so very much. And also, I do appreciate Lion Brand for sponsoring this video and for providing me with today's yarn. Thank you so very much. And thank all of you to watching. Yes, thank you very much. And until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching, everybody. And I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.